Welcome to the first ever live episode of the Thrive Against Cancer podcast, where we give a voice to the cancer community. I'm Toby Freeman, founder and CEO of the Robin Cancer Trust, cancer advocate and host. And our guest today is the amazing Sara, who was diagnosed with a rare form of ovarian cancer at 35. She's now a trustee for the Robin Cancer Trust and works very hard to educate and empower young people in raising awareness, reducing embarrassment and saving lives. She's also a dedicated advocate for the cancer community and passionate about being a voice for cancer patients navigating survivorship. So thank you, Sara, for being here.
Welcome. That sounds impressive, doesn't it? Crikey. I feel like that's talking about somebody else when you say all of that.
And I can assure you it's you, having known you for many years now.
It's strange. It's really strange. And you might notice from the accent, I'm from from the Midlands. And isn't it funny how things happen to you in your life and take you places you just never expected to go? But yeah, it's really weird hearing that intro because it feels like that's somebody else you're talking about.
Well, what we're going to do today is talk about why that is you, all the things you've been through, and all the things you're passionate about after having gone through them. So should we just start with your story? Do you want to set the tone of what happened and when?
Yeah, cool. This is a positive story, spoiler alert. I think that's really important to say. Cancer's not a great topic to talk about, but it's important that we do. So yeah, age 35, so this was 6 years ago now, and I was just living my life, doing what every 35-year-old does. I went to the gym, worked full time, probably ate a bit too much chocolate, but generally looked after myself, all that kind of thing. And I noticed some unusual symptoms. And at first you think, well, I'm just busy, I'm women's troubles, all of those kind of things. And you play it off and think, nah, it's fine. You don't think cancer. That's not part of the conversation at all. However, I did go, thankfully, the one important thing that I did do was see a doctor and get that checked out. And that is the thing that saved my life. That's why I'm here today. It was very quickly escalated, the whole situation. And I was told that I had ovarian cancer at the age of 35. There's nothing quite like that for just bringing you straight back down to earth. I never expected that would ever happen to me, but it did. And I say that not because I'm different to anybody else, but you just don't think it's just not there. I was just living my life, doing my thing.
And historically an older person's cancer as well. Definitely.
That was one of the first things I thought, wow, only I could go and get a flipping rare cancer and an old lady cancer. That is what I thought. But yeah, so I was very fortunate in that I was diagnosed very quickly. It was a bit of a whirlwind, really. I was told I'd got cancer, came home from work, popped to the hospital, as you do, and then they said, look, we need to admit you today. We need to do some life-saving surgery, and we'll let you go home and get some stuff, but no bending, no twisting. We don't want this tumour to burst. It was the size of a 28 week pregnancy. So it was a big tumour. And I was walking around Asda thinking, God, what does a cancer patient want? What does a cancer patient need?
Where's the cancer patient aisle?
I don't know. No, nobody's sort of told me what to do. I don't know. I'd never got the memo I was going to be a cancer patient. It's bizarre. And I was thinking, oh God, I might need Lucozade. Everybody needs Lucozade when they're not very well. Oh God, big pants. I might need some big pants. Honestly. And I was just walking around in a daze. But the day after, I was very fortunate to have my surgery. They took the tumour out, and I had to have a big tummy cut. They got the tumour out, and it was all very unknown, very rare cancer. I think the initial plan was for me to have some chemo. So we were just sort of navigating that. As luck had it on my side, I didn't have chemo in the end. I had a couple of surgeries. My second surgery was only 4 or 5 months later, another tummy cut, and that was a full hysterectomy, putting me into surgical menopause at the age of 35. Cancer, the gift that keeps on giving. So yeah, I am very happy to say that's 6 years on. I'm really well. I'm doing really well. And you never really get told you're in remission, but my oncologists are super happy with me. My checkups have come down to sort of annual checkups now from weekly, monthly. It's been quite the journey to get there. So yeah, I'm doing really good. So that in a nutshell is the story, the whirlwind.
That is a whirlwind. We're on a short timeline today. That is a whirlwind. Also, I love the phrase tummy cut, just as being such a nice way of describing major surgery.
Because it's brutal. It's brutal. It's horrible. But yeah, it's a horrible process, which, I'm recovering well from. But yeah, still have lots of challenges around that. 2 major abdominal surgeries in the space of a few months. It's, not too much fun.
And what we wanted to focus on today is, you didn't want to focus too much on what you've been through telling the story, but maybe more about the longer term effects, like what impact has this cancer had in the years following, and also what you wish people knew about living life after a cancer diagnosis. So should we dive into that?
Yeah, totally. The story's important, where it started, but that's not the whole story. And people think that it is. There is this misconception, wow, you've had cancer, that's horrible. You've got better, that's amazing. Let's all just crack on with life. But for me, as a cancer survivor, I am very grateful. I'm very, very grateful that I'm okay. But every single day, I have to live with the effects of what cancer has done to my body, to my mental health. And it's changed everything. It's changed absolutely everything. And there are a massive community of cancer survivors out there. And we see them, we see you. And it's a voice that needs to be heard a lot more. Of course, it's very important we hear the stories, about the diagnoses, the treatment. But what next? And that is something I'm very passionate about, sort of helping the cancer community with. And definitely what brought me to the Robin Cancer Trust. One of the many reasons that brought me to the Robin Cancer Trust for support.
And we talked about this earlier, that the stories as they're told are really important because they get the prevention and the early detection, and that's what we want as charities and as people. But the longer term, it's that when you're young, you go through the cancer, you've had it, you're back. Oh, you're young, you'll bounce back. Like go back to normal. And normal coming out of cancer isn't normal pre-cancer, is it? And actually, you've helped the charity build that survivorship program for other people because you've realised how important that is. So, should we talk about these new normals in inverted commas that we hear so much?
Yeah.
What's your new normal compared to pre-cancer, Sarah?
So I read somewhere, and it was a blog, so I can't even sort of reference who said this, but I did read that being a cancer survivor is like having somebody standing with a gun pointing next to your head, and you don't know when or if somebody is going to pull that trigger. And that is a weight that's always there. You can't remove that. That's it now. I've had cancer. It's always a worry. Is that going to come back? Is that going to be there? Now, there are times in my life where I totally forget that, but then there are other times, and that's really overwhelming. And that can be at times where hospital appointments, naturally, I'm at the hospital quite a lot. And we talk about scanxiety, don't we?
Absolutely.
Scanxiety is a thing, and a massive part of my life that I never expected to have, that constant worry on the lead up to a hospital scan as to what they're going to find.
And that's monthly at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. And even weekly in the very early stages. The mental place you have to get yourself into to put yourself through that over and over and over again. I'm 6 years in. I'm knackered. I'm absolutely knackered. But you've got to keep on going. I'm so lucky to have those scans. I'm so privileged to have them. They're so important. But it's part of my new normal. That's not something I ever asked for or wanted, but that's real. And there are millions of cancer patients out there that are having to go through that every day. And it doesn't get spoken about enough.
Yeah, and they say ignorance is bliss, but you cannot live in that world. You've been through it, and I imagine, are you preparing every time you go into that? Like,
just in case.
they're going to tell me just in case, because I can't be, that can't come from nowhere.
No, because if it happens again, which it might, then I need to be ready, and I want to be able to give myself the best chance. And I know that the whole cancer journey is a very holistic one now. It's not just about these amazing, clever doctors and science. I play a part in that cancer journey too, and that holistic nature. So getting my head right is a massively important part of that for me.
Yes, because the doctors do incredible work fixing us up, stitching us back together, but that untethering back into the world is where that holistic spot. What have you found really helpful for you navigating that journey in a holistic sense? What's been some tips that might help other people?
Yeah, I think talking about it, acknowledging that it's a thing, that it is a challenge for me. I think that is really important. But also trying not to allow my brain to go 10 steps ahead and just stay in the moment as best I can. So mindfulness stuff I find very, very helpful. Talking, counseling, whatever it might be, organizing my thoughts. So I'm in a really good place to be able to navigate that, to know that it's a challenge. And when I feel my head running away with me, just try and stop. So control things in that day that I can, have something nice for breakfast, go on a walk, do all of the good stuff that I want to do to get myself in a really good place so that my head isn't going in the wrong direction.
That's really good advice. What other long-term effects have you been feeling since your diagnosis that aren't talked about? I know you're passionate about, well, we talk about them all the time, but
yeah, of course. Yeah. So I suppose the big thing is menopause, surgical menopause. It's a beast. It really is. And, it's embarrassing for people to talk about, but, menopause does come to lots of people naturally. But when you go into surgical menopause, it's like falling off a cliff. So you go 0 to 100. So some of the symptoms that I have to manage every day, whether that's energy levels, brain fog, we were talking earlier, just reading information, my processing speed's all different. I get very tired, much to the amusement of those around me, actually. You can just see the energy drain from me, sometimes mid-sentence, mid-conversation. I keep fit, I'm active, I run, I go to the gym, but I find all of those things really difficult. I have to probably work twice as hard as I used to have to work just to turn up and just to show up and be there and engage in that activity. So yeah, I feel like every little thing I do has a cost to my energy levels. It has a cost to my general being. And I'm not sad to admit, at the end of the day, I have to crawl upstairs some days because I am exhausted, but I won't give up, and I will make myself do all of those amazing things like running and gym, and because it's important and I value my health. I feel so lucky.
I think that's one of the things I see quite regularly, because obviously I know you inspire me with, I have a privilege of seeing this. What are these? We talked earlier about the gratitude that you feel. What are the, I don't know how to frame this. What are the positives that you've brought from your cancer diagnosis, if there are any, if that's the right word?
Yeah, it is the right word. And you might notice I light up when I talk about this because it's changed my perception of everything. It's not just saying, oh, I feel really lucky. I genuinely feel in my bones so lucky to be here. I feel so lucky to be well and thriving in the cancer community. And I feel fortunate. Like I said at the start, you don't know where your life's going to take you. And all of this resulted in me connecting with the Robin Cancer Trust, who are a charity that not only just informed me about, what I had and sort of gave me a voice, but they have nurtured me through that survivorship and in turn allowed me to sort of pass that on to other people. So I'm so passionate about that wider cancer community. And like I say, not just the, oh, here you go, I've had cancer, let's share my story, but the being able to sort of articulate some of the more complex issues, some of the things that people don't get to hear, and that's a real privilege. So positively, it's been a wonderful experience. And you know, even the running thing, it was the charity that got me into that through the Runners versus Cancer community. I've been nurtured and supported. I mean, if you would have ever told me I would be running like half marathons, I would have, no way. I hated running. I've always hated it. And then all of a sudden I've, you know, nurtured through a fantastic community. So it's changed my life despite all of the challenges for the better in so many ways. It's taken me to different places. I've met different people, and I have this outlook on life, which is an absolute gift, which I probably didn't have before.
I would like to say for everyone listening and here today, I didn't pay you to say that, by the way.
No.
Everything Sarah does is voluntary, and she's technically my boss
I know,
as a
seriously.
trustee. So.
And we said at the start, I was like, oh, you know, it's not like we don't need to talk about the charity, but I just naturally do, because it is such a blessing to have had that. And that's a huge part of my story and sort of how I've got here.
But we were talking earlier as well about the light and shade of it all. We can talk about the difficulties of the long-term effects. We can talk about how positive the outlook and everything is. But there's a light and shade in absolutely all of that. Like you say, you've got this great outlook, but it comes at a cost. Everything you do, you have that gun to your head the whole time. And actually, it's a very authentic way of looking at it. I think we try and echo that in that part of the podcast, is just telling these real stories. There's no bullshit with it. It's just, it is what it is. And we were saying how different everyone's journey is to that. And I think just what you said earlier about just seeing survivors, just being like, I see you, you are there, you're valid, your feelings are valid, is so important for charities and organisations, and for us to use our platform for that, because I think that's the biggest good we can do for the community.
Totally. It's so empowering, because, you know, I'm 6 years on now, thankfully. The rest of the world has carried on as normal, and I don't feel normal, whatever normal is. But to have that voice saying, yeah, we hear you, we acknowledge you, there's so much power in that. And it brings me so much comfort as a survivor to have that.
Yeah, very cathartic.
Yeah, definitely.
Cathartic in sharing.
Yeah.
And using our platform. I would like to ask you some quickfire questions, if that's all right, and then we'll open up. We have a roaming mic, I think, if anyone wants to ask any questions. But we do, every one of our guests gets asked the same 5 questions, because everyone's story and journey is different. But this takes us back to the same thing. So what advice would you give to someone who's worried they might have cancer?
Don't be a knob. Go and get yourself checked out. There's literally nothing else to say. If you are worried, that is enough to go to a doctor. And I promise you, it probably isn't. But if ever it is, you are giving yourself every single chance of the best possible outcome. However far it is, whatever kind of cancer it is, if something is not quite right with your body, please go and speak to somebody. And like I say, I'm here today because I did that. And if I didn't, then, you know, I wouldn't be. So it's as simple as that. Don't be a knob. There you go. Quick fire.
Love it. Great advice. And I love it in every episode where I find the soundbite that we're going to use at the beginning. So
I love that. Don't be a knob. I like that.
What was the most impactful thing someone did for you after your diagnosis?
I think treated me normally and said the word cancer in conversations. Didn't go, oh, you're not very well, and ooh. It was like, this is really crap, you've got cancer, that's terrible. And just treated me like a normal person. They told me about their dramas going on in their life, and because I had enough drama of my own, and it was refreshing to have somebody to just treat me normally. My whole normal had been blown to pieces. So to have all of those people around me that know me and love me to, you know, take the mickey out of me and crack jokes, I appreciated that. And not be frightened of that cancer word. It's a powerful word, but one at the point of diagnosis, I needed to make part of my vocabulary.
Yeah. We often hear people saying the first time that barrier broke was when someone made a joke, usually a horribly dark joke.
Yeah.
And that just breaks the ice.
Exactly.
It's that normalising.
Good thing.
Yeah. Obviously do it on your own terms, not when you're having a meltdown about something. So what's the worst thing someone has said to you about having cancer?
Nothing, I think, in terms of some people have very strange responses. They don't want to talk to you. They stop talking to you and you don't really know why at the time where you probably need people the most. Because, and it's not done maliciously, everybody has their own view and their own take on cancer, their own challenges, their own experiences, and people don't know what to say, you know? And when people just ignore you across the street because they don't want to talk to you because they can't face it, that for me, I found that really tough. Yeah.
I think people have a weird preset to not talking about anything that reminds them about their own mortality, and that's just not right. I mean, we just have to talk about these things.
We do. We're all going to die at some point, you know? Like, that's one thing that is certain.
And a cancer diagnosis isn't a death diagnosis.
No,
it's just...
It really isn't. It really isn't. So I think it's so important, again, to just normalise it. It's a conversation. I'd much rather somebody say to me, oh, God, you've got cancer. That's terrible. That's really crap. I really struggle with this. I don't know what to say to you.
Right,
that's okay. That's cool. I'll be like, yeah, it's rubbish, isn't it? I don't know either. So let's just go get a pint or something.
Yeah.
But the nothingness is difficult.
Yeah. I've been asked a few times. I would just say, this is shit. I'm so sorry. I mean, it's not that difficult. No. You can text that. You can voice note that. Yeah. You can say it in person. I don't know what to say is better than saying nothing.
Yeah. There are no rules. Like, you know, we're all just winging it.
Yeah,
I genuinely am winging it still. Like,
just because I've never
done this before, you know, never had cancer before. So, yeah.
Real. What advice would you give to someone recently diagnosed with cancer?
First and foremost, it's crap. Yeah, I'm sorry you're going through this, but there are so many things you can do to help your journey, and you can take a lot of ownership from so many things. And there will be a huge part of your life you can't control right now because that's out of your hands. That's the cancer. That's the doctors. That's everything that's going on around you. But there will be loads of things that you can do to get yourself through your day and focus on those. And I wouldn't even say one day at a time. It's literally a minute at a time, because you just, if you tried to think about everything, your head would explode. Just think about the moment that you're in. Deal with that the best you can. You're going to get some of it right, some of it wrong. That's all okay. And just navigate it as best you can. There are no rules, but take comfort in just taking charge of as much as you can. So appointments, for example, you know, take a pen and paper. Take somebody with you. You're probably not going to be listening. So get somebody to help you write things down. Plan questions that you want to ask. Decide what you want to eat that day. Decide who and how you want to give your energy to. Those are all things that are still sit within your space. So use that because there's so much that you won't be able to have any part of. You're just a bystander as this crazy cancer train just...
The roller coaster you cannot get off. Yeah, I think that's incredible advice. And when you're saying that, you give me advice like that as a trustee as well. Mm-hmm. Just like, stop thinking over there. Yeah. Little baby steps all the time. So love that. Last question then. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from having cancer?
Aside from the go and get yourself checked out if anything isn't right, all of the good stuff that we talk about at the charity all of the time, life is bloody brilliant. And we are so, so lucky to have it. We are so lucky to wake up every morning and to have all of those little minor inconveniences that really get on your nerves every single day. We are bloody lucky to have them. And everything that goes on in this world, I mean, there's some terrible stuff, but there's some beautiful stuff. And it's helped me to not just listen, but I can really hear now. You know, I don't just look, I really see. It's different. And I would just challenge anybody, cancer or not, to do that, to take a moment to remember, yeah, despite everything else that's going on out there, it is beautiful and we're very, very lucky. So just don't waste a second.
I think that is a perfect way to end the podcast as we sit here in our moment in Hotbox in Chelmsford with this audience.
This is wonderful.
So thank you for everything you do for the cancer community, everything that you're passionate and dedicated to, and all the support you give me personally and the wider cancer community. So thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Shall we, if anyone wants a question, we're open books. You can ask us anything.
It's a weird topic to ask questions about. So
anything you've ever wanted to know.
No.
No one's got any.
Just some distance high fives then.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Good. Yes, Mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a great point and probably something we could talk at length about. Family, I think it's harder for family. I do. As the patient, I'm sat there in the middle of it. You know, I'm in it. And for a bystander, that's so difficult because they have even less control than the person in the middle of it. So I think communication is key between both patient and carer, family member, friend, whoever it might be. And again, that open and honest communication to just say, oh my God, this is horrendous. I'm finding this really difficult now. I would much rather, you know, I used to see it. I knew like my family and friends would come in and see me in hospital looking really rough. And you could just see them holding everything in. And then you know full well they'd go out and they'd probably start sobbing down the corridor. And it's like, look, just be in the moment. It's okay. But yeah, let's talk through it. Let's go through it together because a lot of probably what you're going through, it's very different to what I'm going through, but arguably harder in some ways. Don't know. Would you add anything there, Toby?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking it's interesting. Cancer patients always say it's harder for the family. I don't know why. Maybe that's for that exact reason, lack of control. Having been a family member, I would say I'd still rather go through what I went through. But I would say be conscious that everyone in a family unit is dealing with it completely differently because everyone grieves, because you are effectively grieving in some way through that. Everyone deals with that differently. So communication, massively important. Use people outside of the family unit to talk to. I'm a big believer, like professionally or just personally, have someone that you can go and talk to because like your feelings are valid. Everyone's trying to support everyone. The cancer patient's holding it together for family because you don't want to, that's what we always hear. And then the family doesn't want to bring it to the cancer patient. Really, like you just need a release valve. And I think that's what the normalizing it is so important. Having people that talk about it, support. Family and support need that as well. So I think there's a big thing around just having people you can talk to and normalize it as well. But yeah, it's all shit. And I would add to your don't be a knob. Like don't go and drink a stupendous a lot like I did when my brother was diagnosed. And you know, there's good coping mechanisms and bad coping mechanisms. Holistic support for everyone is needed, but it all comes down to communication.
Yeah, that's the cornerstone of it all. Thank you.
Amazing. I think that's us.
I think we've got away quite lightly there. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I'd like have a little nap now.
I know, yeah, feet up. But thank you. It's been a real privilege to be able to give a little bit of insight into what was a bit of a crappy time in my life. But luckily, been able to come out the other side stronger and here to support and always happy to answer questions we both are, away from this forum if needed. So thank you so much, Toby. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, and thank you for being here. And thank you guys for bringing us together, and Hotbox for hosting. So that's all the thank yous. Oh, I suppose we should thank Paul as well for doing all the audio. Cheers, bud. Thank you, everyone.